We had talked about this issue on the Monday show, and unfortunately, as one follower on Twitter said, I guess you were right. This is something there are many situations where people go, gee, you were right. And I go, I really didn't want to be right. And this is one of them. I didn't want to be right on this situation, but here we are. And with that, we're going to roll some clips.
Early Tuesday, 9 Nazi swastika stickers were found placed across the Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial in Boise.
Peter Yeager faces a first-degree arson charge and is expected to appear in court today.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment? My 12-year-old son is home by himself right now, and there are protesters banging outside the door, okay? I'm going to go home and make sure he's okay, so I will reconnect with you when I get there.
There's been one person detained, but they indicated that they have the situation under control.
Sadly, it's not under control. It is not under control at my house, and it's not under control at Diana's house.
Daniel Troublefield took these pictures at the hospital right after he says he was attacked.
I curled up in the fetal position, and I was just ready to die.
He shared
Are you proud of yourselves, America? That mother clip in particular is very hard to watch. Now, the Chuds.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
These are Chuds.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
The Chuds are trying to spin it that they were actually engaged in peaceful protest in Boise, Idaho. And as sometimes we're very fond of saying and quoting the song "Killing in the Name of," some of those who work forces are the same who burn crosses. In that conversation in the Boise Health District meeting, where they say they have it under control. Who are they? Well, you know who they are. They're bastards. To quote South Park. Yes, they was the police department saying that they had things out of control. The mayor, things were so well under control, according to the Boise Police Department, that the Boise Police Department a couple of minutes later in that call said, yes, you need to cancel this meeting, and the mayor is asking you to cancel this meeting because there's over 100 people outside and it is no longer safe for us being the police, and it's no longer safe for you. That is on the clip. That is available, the full-length clip of that. It's at the end of that. So, yeah, Boise Police Department, it wasn't under control. And Chuds, you weren't being peaceful protesters. You just weren't. And then we have the swastikas on the Anne Frank memorial. It's the only Anne Frank memorial in the United States. Wasn't aware of that. I learned that in part of researching that story. And the other part that makes it even a little more reprehensible, it happens the day before Hanukkah, because of course it does. But these people come in the middle of the night because they're cowards, and they consistently act as cowards because that's how they operate. And every now and then you get somebody like Chris Gunzler. Chris Gunzler, by the way, still cooling his jets at the Thurston County Jail. Nobody has stepped forward to pony up his $5,000 bail. Or Chris Gunzler.
Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers.
Chris Gunzler is the epitome of the Chud that I like to talk about. Chris Gunzler lives with mom and dad at 27 years old. So literally an individual who shit posts from mom and dad's basement, who inhaled too much hate, too many comments, and got pushed a little too far. And we know that his comrades in arms literally did not and do not support his actions. Why? Because when he pulled the trigger and fired that shot on Saturday, it wasn't just Antifa that scattered and ran. The camera don't lie. Everybody scattered and ran, and everybody stopped the fight that was going on both sides. And the camera doesn't lie. Right-wingers and left-wingers were cowering in fear behind parked cars together. And all of a sudden, it all didn't matter. And so Chris Gunzler is like the epitome of this. And so, yes, the brave protesters are pounding on the door and threatening a 12-year-old child that's at home. Yes, but you went to people's houses. Yeah, you know what? Nobody ever walked up to Mike Solin's door. Nobody ever pounded on the door. No one brought a gun. Nobody threatened anybody with harm. And nobody did it knowing that the parent would be away from the child. Because don't forget, the protesters coordinated this. They knew where the people were going to be at that meeting. So don't pretend that, oh no, we're peaceful, because you're not. Now let's go ahead and we're going to go to Spokane, and let's talk about this interesting incident out there. Peter J. Yeager, we had figured out he was the individual arrested, but we were looking for confirmation, probably like every other media organization. We put on our Twitter feed. We're pretty sure we know who this is. We identified it through arrest records. The thing that we're having a really hard time finding that, we could not find a Peter Yeager, like when we were doing search of the existence of a Peter Yeager, anywhere in the area. There were a couple of people came up in social media when we were looking on there, but like, when we looked at their profiles, it was like, this doesn't fit the profile of a person that goes in alleging that they're going to blow a building up and set a fire and take somebody hostage. I use the word hostage. He held one person against their will. That is the allegations that are coming out of that. He has been charged with first-degree arson. First-degree arson is basically, there are a number of ways you get first-degree arson, but one of them is setting a building on fire when you know that people are in the building. Oh, that's right, chuds.
These are chuds.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
That's another one you like to get real high and mighty on, right? We don't do that. Oh, okay, whatever. So what do we know? He's from Grand Coulee, Washington. We don't know his age. We also know that he claims that he has no political affiliation. Full stop. The FBI is investigating this as a domestic terrorism attack. He claims that he hates Republicans and Democrats equally and that he hates the elites. Kind of starting to sound like a Q follower to me. And he wanted to just do something so that other people would do something. That's just about his words. So in other words, he didn't say things like, I want to create a revolution or I want to start a race war. He never said anything like that. He gave a manifesto to the person he was holding against their will. The police have that manifesto. We don't know a whole lot about the manifesto beyond what we've just said. He appears to have no social media footprint. Not only does he appear to have no social media footprint, he is probably does not live, say, at a residence that he has a lease on or that he physically owns. Because in social media, in address search, property search, nothing comes up for a Peter J. Yeager when you do this search. And there was one of the things we wanted to make this clear, and we did this on our Twitter channel. In the Spokane area, there's a guy who was a Jeffrey Yeager, and it was like, look, we don't want anybody going down this rabbit hole, because Jeffrey Yeager has a talk show and he's an author. He's written all these books about frugal living, and it's like, it ain't that guy. We know it's not that guy. Don't start going down that rabbit hole. We have an age. I just saw the comment going by. So he's age 45. And yes, he is a war vet from the Iraq War. He claims that he has PTSD. That's what we know at that point. The last clip that we showed there is out of Ocean Shores, where the individual with the smashed in face there confronted a couple of people in a store who weren't wearing a mask. Now, they shouldn't have been in the store in the first place not wearing a mask, but neither here nor there. And let's not forget, back in the spring, when people were, oh, okay, I could still go to parks, and there was all this arguments in the socials that was like the going to the park doesn't mean like 30 of you go to park and hang out together. Going to a park means you keep walking and keep moving and keep a part of each other. And people are like, no, they said we could go to a park. And there was like, if the governor says we can play soccer, so why can't I play basketball? Or why can't I play football? And why can't my kids be on the jungle gym? Right? We went all through this in the spring. And the folks at Ocean Shores were very, very upset when everybody from Seattle, Tacoma, and Bellevue showed up at their doorsteps in April because the governor said we can go outside again. I think end of April is kind of when all that happened. And it turned into the shit show that everybody thought it was going to be. But now they're cool with not wearing masks because, they listen to Dear Leader, soon not to be Dear Leader, and they don't live in fear. Yet somehow they have to take a gun to go to the store, and they're afraid of vaccinations, 5G, unregulated uteruses, Hugo Chavez, voting machines, vaccinations, Bill Gates, government overlords. They're afraid of those things. Taking my guns away. They just scared little sheep. Well, what did they do? Well, they did what any normal, rational human being would do after being told to wear a mask in a store. And the person admits that he was confrontational about it. He could have been a little more polite. They kicked his ass in the parking lot. And what's the police doing there? Not a whole hell of a lot, because apparently kicking somebody's ass for telling you to wear a mask is acceptable in Ocean Shores. Hey, Seattle, come this spring and summer, remember that when you're going to go take your tourist dollars somewhere. Because let's face it, Ocean Shores has a pretty beach, but Ocean Shores has straight up lousy restaurants. Lousy. Like, we don't have to try, number one. And number two, most of the accommodations there are pretty lousy and really overpriced for what you get. So, economic pressure, look what's happening at Red House. See, I tied that together. Economic pressure, that's a language that people do understand. And so maybe the police would be a little more motivated to do something. But it's unlikely, because remember in Woodinville, when we had Gunny McGunnister,
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
waving his gun around the juveniles and King County sheriffs, because technically there is no Woodinville Police Department. They contract with the King County Sheriff's Department. They decided, and yet we've never heard what the mystery fluid in that bucket is. And yet I seem to believe that if the mystery bucket of fluid had some dangerous chemical in it, or was filled with human feces and urine, we would have heard about that, because that's how they roll.